It is draft season, and with that come pro comparisons. We recently did a video on that topic on comparisons that looked ridiculous years later, and some of those included Blake Bortles to Patrick Mahomes and Josh Doctson being the next DeAndre Hopkins. In today's video, we're going to discuss several players that outperformed their pro comparisons by a long shot. Now, before we get started, I realize players are compared based on traits or skill sets, and that isn't meant to be taken as that's how he'll project, and if he's any better, it'll be an absolute miracle. I get it, how and why they're compared, and I just wanted to be clear that up before things get going. Now, before we get started, I want to say we are closing in on 21,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the continued support. And if you do enjoy the content, please go ahead and hit the like and the subscribe button, as it would mean the world and each only take a second to do, and all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And we start today's video with a player that was in the 2020 Defensive Player of the Year award conversation, and that is TJ Watt of the Pittsburgh Steelers. TJ Watt wasn't that great of a prospect coming out of Wisconsin, believe it or not, as he was hurt multiple times in college and went nearly 3 full years without playing a game. He entered his collegiate career as a tight end and switched to a defensive player less than 2 years before becoming a first-round pick. The player TJ is now is absolutely nothing compared to the player he was, which is a compliment to him and his work ethic, by the way, when he came out of college, and that is putting it lightly. He was viewed as a very raw prospect, as he had 7 tackles in his first year playing in 2015 and exploded onto the scene in 2016 with 11.5 sacks, being a first-team all-conference player and second-team All-American in the process. But given he had 1 year of production and several years of injury, not surprisingly, teams weren't too high on TJ when he entered the NFL draft process. And we say process because that's what all of this at the end of the day really is. From the season the players play, to the Senior Bowl, to the NFL Combine, to pro days, to individual workouts with teams, to interviews, to everything in between. This is a process, and obviously TJ has a great mindset, but teams were skeptical of him, and rightfully so, might I add. But in 2017, he was compared to Trent Murphy, who used to play for the Washington football team and is now a member of the Bills. Now, Trent hasn't been a bad player in the pros, as he will enter his 8th NFL season in 2021, but when comparing that to an NFL Defensive Player of the Year candidate, it is no contest. Again, I understand why TJ was compared to him, but this video is to praise players for overcoming odds and outperforming doubters in their career path. Next is Darius Leonard of the Colts. So when Darius was in the draft process, he was a huge production guy coming out of a very small school in South Carolina State. Ever since then, he has been a 3-time All-Pro, with 2 of those being first-time, one in his rookie year and one in 2020, so to say the Colts hit on this former second-round pick and really their 2018 first-round pick Quentin Nelson would be putting it kindly. Leonard is one of, if not the best linebackers in the league, and has the numbers to back it up, but his draft comparison was Jatavis Brown, formerly of the Chargers and a player who is now retired from the league. Jatavis had over 260 tackles in his NFL career, and while that's not bad production over a 4-year span, by the way, it's not 2-time first-team All-Pro on the path to a Hall of Fame career if he keeps this up Darius Leonard production. Leonard was taken at the top of the second round in 2018, much to the surprise of everyone, but a few years later, when a player is picked that high relative to where they are projected to be, the pick is not questioned. Leonard, as of now, as we said, is on a Hall of Fame path, as he has been an All-Pro in every year of his career, and generally if a player is top 2 at their position for 7 to 8 years, they eventually get in the Hall of Fame. Now, I'm not saying he will be one or is a lock or anything like that, but he is on the pace, and when you are compared to a player who wasn't overly dominant in a 4-year career, that is 100% outplaying your NFL draft comparison. And if you didn't know, Darius didn't have a great upbringing, to say the least, and from one human to another, I could not be happier for the guy, as not only is he an absolute monster on the field, he is about to get the bag and set him and his family up for financial success for the rest of their lives. Next, we go to Cleveland to discuss Nick Chubb, who, believe it or not, is now a back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher. Chubb has become a great running back over the past few years, and notice I said great and not top whatever ranking. He has averaged over 5 yards per carry for the entirety of his career and was 4 yards, so just 12 feet away from being a 3-time and having 3 consecutive years to start his career with 1,000 yards in every year, meaning he had 996 yards back in 2018. The Browns are probably going to pay him soon, and rightfully so, might I add. For the sake of this video though, he was compared to Jay Ajayi, who is now out of the NFL. Now this comparison looking back makes sense for a few reasons. Chubb has just significantly outplayed the comparison. A reason this makes sense was Ajayi was on the Eagles in 2017, and as we know, Chubb was a Georgia Bulldog in 2017. This was the year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, and they had a running back by committee similar to Georgia. Philly won the Super Bowl with efforts from LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi, Corey Clement, and Wendell Smallwood, and Georgia went to the college football playoffs with efforts from Chubb, Sony Michel, DeAndre Swift, and Elijah Holyfield. Chubb and Ajayi were very similar style backs at the time, as Jay had a Pro Bowl appearance with the Dolphins in 2016 before being traded to Philly in the middle of 2017. But as the title of this video suggests, Nick has significantly outperformed this comparison and will soon get the bag, and rightfully so. And a quick side note, I hope him and Kareem Hunt remain members of the Browns for a long time, because they are truly a fun duo to watch. Next is Robby Anderson of the Panthers, who went undrafted back in 2016. This is a classic example of someone who was doubted and who was an underdog and was a player nobody expected anything out of. Robby's scouting report said, quote, "Drops were a major issue for Anderson in 2015 and may contribute to the idea that he needs to play quarterback, and that whether he plays on offense or defense in the NFL, Anderson needs to gain strength. His 190-pound frame cannot hold up to the pounding he will take in the pros," end quote. Robby now is a solid receiver, and in the NFL Draft 400 series by Bleacher Report, he was ranked the 48th best receiver, which is laughable due to where he is now. And for what it's worth, when I do these videos, this is not me looking to slander Bleacher Report any chance I can, because it is not. The Draft 400 series are very good reads, and they are fun to go back and look at to see what went wrong and what went right. And more than likely, every other 48th ranked receiver in the last 20 or 30 years in the draft has done what you would expect. Maybe stick around for a camp or two to be on the active roster for a few games and then fizzle out. The NFL is an incredibly difficult league for players to stay in, and it's good to see Robby went from being doubted as he was to being an NFL cornerback to having over 300 catches in his 5-year career. Now, Robby's comparison when he was in the draft process was Tony Lippett, who ironically was an NFL corner. Lippett played for the Dolphins for 3 years, the Giants for a year, and is now a member of the Saskatchewan Roughriders of the CFL. Robby Anderson has far outplayed every expectation he had placed on him, and at 27, going to turn 28 years old before the new season, there is no reason to think Robby cannot finish his career with at least 500 or 600 catches, which for an undrafted player is pretty remarkable given everything that was against him in the draft process. And the last player we're going to discuss in today's video is a quarterback who has had some pretty high highs and some pretty low lows so far in the NFL, and that is Baker Mayfield of the Browns. Baker was an intriguing prospect in the 2018 draft because he was a Heisman-winning quarterback, he was flashy, and he had supreme confidence. But there were some doubts as he entered the NFL, as he had to transfer from Texas Tech because, remember, he did not win the starting job there, and of course the infamous planting the Oklahoma flag at Ohio State's midfield didn't exactly help Baker's case to be a leader of an NFL franchise. And what I mean by that is there were a lot of emotions that obviously went into that, and at that point in time they had just beat the number 2 team in the nation, and Baker was feeling himself at that point in time, and really who could blame him? Beating a top 5 team on the road in their stadium was quite the accomplishment by double digits, might I add, and it was a game where Baker threw for 386 yards and 3 touchdowns and completed nearly 80% of his passes. Now with players like Baker, Nick Bosa, and many others that I'm just going off the top of my head here, there had to have been an NFL scout representative from every NFL team there, so Baker definitely put on a good show and really helped improve his draft stock that night. Now the play was great for his draft stock, his gameplay that is, the incident after was not. And back to the Texas point quickly. He lost his job to Patrick Mahomes when he was at Texas Tech, and while now it's fine because of who Mahomes is, at the time it was viewed as losing to a project player and an unknown NFL player. Heading into the 2018 draft, Mahomes had played a meaningless Week 17 regular season game in his rookie year, and that was it. Now, had he had the rookie year Justin Herbert just had, scouts and analysts would have seen the loss of a starting job like, okay, that's fine considering how good this player is, and we understand now, but then it was a completely different game. And Baker was 6 feet tall with a solid arm, though not unworldly Josh Allen level by any means, and could scramble when needed. Largely due to this, his comparison, Case Keenum coming out of college. And Baker has significantly outplayed those expectations, but to be fair to Case, this comp was made after his magical 2017 season with the Vikings, so with recency bias when this article was written, Case was viewed in a lot brighter of a light than he is at this moment in time. 3 years later, Baker has 75 passing touchdowns to his name, over 11,000 passing yards, a playoff win, a winning record, and a bright future in the city of Cleveland. Head coach Kevin Stefanski will help him become the best version of himself that he can be, and we saw that in year 1 of those two working together. Baker cut his interceptions to a career low and had an impressive 26 6 to 8 touchdown to interception ratio while helping the Browns to 11 wins. Time will tell how his career plays out, but as of now, it is better than the Case Keenum draft comparison. And with that being said, stick around real quick if you guys don't mind. That's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, as usual, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world. Now, if you're still listening, which I hope you are, there will be film breakdown of players in the 2021 draft coming up, like Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Zach Wilson. Now, I'm probably not, unless requested by popular demand, because everybody knows how good he is, but I'm probably not going to do a Trevor Lawrence breakdown, but if that is something you guys want, I will. I just don't really see the value in it, knowing where he's going and knowing where he's going to be drafted. But like I said, if it's something you guys want, then I would be more than willing to do so. So anyways, I will see you guys next time. Make sure to check out the nearly 30-minute interview from the other day with discussing the New York Jets and the number 2 pick in the draft. Now, have a great weekend. Love you guys. Deuces. Peace. Love you guys.